In today's video, I want to peel back the curtain and show you how I come to church ready for anything that gets thrown at me, whether that's a new song in rehearsal, a missing member of the band that called out sick at the last minute, or even an audible, a new song that gets shouted out during a live service. I always have a ready for anything patch in my set list. And today I want to show you the current version of it because honestly it does change and evolve over time, but I want to break it down for you into its simple ingredients. And as you follow along, I think it's going to help you build one of these ready for anything patches of your own, but also make more confident sound design choices in general as you build your patches for worship. Now, I define my ready for anything patch as just that. It has to be ready to go to fill space for any song, any moment that I can think of. This is what I use if something I prepared isn't working or if we need to go in a new direction. It's often the patch I end up on during an altar call, baptism, times of prayer, something that wasn't in the plan for the service, but is definitely being expected of me as the keys player. I'm gonna break it down and make sure you watch through to the end because I'm gonna explain all of the pieces so you know how they work, and then you'll be able to download this patch for yourself to try it out in the Sunday Keys app. Now, I do wanna say, like we always say, all the sounds you're hearing are coming straight from the Sunday Keys app with no post-processing, and we update the sound library every month, adding new sounds and patches for you to explore. See that red dot in the top right corner? That means we are recording the direct output, and that's what you're gonna get if you download the patch and try it for yourself. So this is how I'm ready for anything. I will quickly just browse through the sounds in this patch and give you an idea of what all is on tap here. And then we're gonna go sound by sound and I'll explain why each sound deserves to be in the patch. And there's gonna be lots of little takeaways throughout this video about how I approach this kind of patch. So let's go ahead and start with the piano. I have SK Grand V2, and I'm gonna bring down the volume of all these other layers so that you can just hear this. I have the main voicing, which is sort of a middle of the road velocity response. And I have the room voicing here rather than one of the more ambient voices like the hall, because I'm just not sure how much ambience I'm gonna want, and I'd rather have a little bit less by default. So of course this is across the full width of the keyboard, and I always have the option, if I need to turn on the octave up Midi effect, which is big, bright, and aggressive. I can turn on the delay. I have a stereo delay in ping pong here, dotted eighth. You can check out those settings there. But by default, it's just nice, simple piano with a lot of velocity responsiveness and a big dynamic range. I can play quickly, I can play low, I can play high. So that's something that I always know I'm just gonna need in this meat and potatoes kind of moment where I need to go somewhere. Next up, I have sort of a stack of pads, and you might be noticing that all these next sounds have their volumes defaulting to 0 or all the way down, negative infinity, not 0. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but first, I wanna explain why these sounds are not my pads. The next sounds that I consider here are actually tucked away over here. It's a stack of 3 different pad sounds. The reason I have them over here off to the side of my screen is that this is sort of a static, a constant in the patch. I'm almost always wanting this mix of 3 pad sounds. So I'll take the piano out so you can hear it. First, I have this coastal path pad, which is a pretty dark, kind of warm pad with a bit of shimmer in the samples. And as I bring the mod wheel up, it gets just a touch brighter, but not a ton. There's that, and then next up I have warm pad 1, Old Faithful. This does not have as much high frequency content. And it sustains infinitely, of course, but it releases pretty quickly. So even if I need to play fast, this can keep up, and it does get brighter as the mod wheel moves up. And then lastly, I have this retro bell pad. And this is the most dynamic of the stack. It's kind of thin almost and quiet when you play soft. But if you dig in, you get more brightness, the filter responds. And it's almost lead-like. It does have an attack. But if you pull back, it almost disappears. A lot of volume to velocity here. And then it does get brighter as the mod wheel moves up. So all together with the piano, it sounds like this. Now I can go and adjust the mix of these if I want to, but as I said, most of the time I'm happy with where they are, and I might use the mod wheel just to modulate up, add some brightness. Or not, might just stay static. One other thing I'll point out is that 2 of the 3 have a custom volume sweep dialed in. I'll show you how to do that. This is a big secret in Sunday Keys that I think a lot of people don't do and you should be doing. If you go to settings for the sound, you can adjust the volume fader range. That means you can set the travel of the volume fader that you get on the main screen. For me, I know I need to be able to turn this all the way off, so the minimum is set to -infinity. But I've dialed in custom max values that are not full bore, they're not full strength. I've dialed in what I think is about the maximum amount I'll ever want from a given sound. Because this is often something I'm going to be doing improvisationally in the moment, last minute, maybe just during rehearsal or at the end of a service. I really don't want to have to think about now how much volume is going to be too much volume for an individual sound while I'm trying to mix this on the fly. So setting those custom max values makes it a lot safer for you to just say, okay, I'm going from 0 to 100, and that's not too much. It's going to work. So that's the pad stack. That's sort of the foundation for these moments where I'm ready for anything. Okay, so next up, I'm going to take you back to these front 5 sounds, because this is where it gets a bit more strategic, how I actually feel I can cover most anything that gets thrown at me. In module 2 here, I have a sub-bass sound, and I need to disclaim this really quick. This is the only sound in this Ready for Anything patch that isn't in the stock Sunday Keys library. This S100 sub-bass came from an old Roland System 100 modular synthesizer, and it's part of the vintage Synth Locker sound library. It's an expansion you can get for Sunday Keys. It's included in Ultimate and All Access tiers, but it's not a part of the core Sunday Keys library. So in the shared setlist link, I'll include a version that doesn't have this sub-bass sound. It instead will just have the generic sub-bass from Sunday Keys, but this is the one I've actually been using the most, because it just has a certain growl and character that I really love. It's nice and round, it never gets too big, and it just feels great. So this is the synth bass, or the sub bass, that I've been using a lot for these moments at church, and I wanted to make sure that I let you hear what it sounds like. So if you like it, check out Vintage Synth Locker. It's really incredible library with tons of vintage synth sounds, but this sub bass is a particular favorite of mine. Now I have the sub bass here in module 2 because I want to be able to very easily adjust it in or out. If I have a real bass player on stage, this might never actually get used at all, but sometimes, especially if your band is using tracks for, you're finishing a song out and then the tracks fade, you're hanging for a while, maybe you go into a reprise that isn't in the tracks, so you're just playing along to a click or maybe sans click. I might want to fill that space so the bottom doesn't drop out. So I can just bring this in. And again, I have the max volume here set to about -6. That's because I feel like that's as much bass as I ever want to contribute to the mix. Next up, I have this big bright pad. This is here for when I actually need to go somewhere. It's got a lot more high frequency content, and the travel of the mod wheel is pretty noticeable. When the mod wheel's down, it actually is kind of a warm pad, but the potential for brightness is there, and it gets very big. And it can go front of mix if I bring it all the way up. And you hear that shimmery, high, bright, sort of tranciness almost. And it follows my playing pretty well, so. We could even do a fast song with this, and it is functionally kind of a lead at that point. So this is giving me my shimmer, my brightness, and that's why I have it here, because I don't know that I'm going to need that all the time, but when I do, I need to be able to bring it in or out on the fly. I'm going to skip over this lead sound for a second because I want to talk about this other pad layer. I'm layering in lots of pads, right, to build ambience and intensity. This organ pad is a pretty different character from this stack of warm pad. It sounds like a Hammond, a B3 organ, but it's sampled through a bunch of reverb, so it doesn't do the full-on organ thing. It's not dry. It's very much in that sort of Coldplay, let's hang out forever sort of thing. And at full volume, I do give myself the potential for full volume here because I think it layers really well for these big moments. So I'm just filling lots of high frequency space here with simple chords, keeping that pinky in common on the A. But I can move around if I need to. And I can fill lots of space, or I could just move it up if I need to. Stay out of the low range. So I have lots of flexibility there, or if we were doing something, something different, so. Then that mod wheel brings in all that high frequency energy. And of course, if I wanted to, I could fill in the low end with that sub bass. Lastly, then, I have what is maybe the craziest bit of this Ready for Anything patch, and that's this dystopic lead. I'm going to bring some of these other layers out so you can hear just how intense this sound is on its own. I've talked about it in some videos before. I use it all the time. It's a staple sound of mine. It's aggressive. I've got the volume capped at -9 because it's intense. And as you play multiple notes, they really bounce off of each other. And that's what the mod wheel down. It's all hiss and gnarliness as the mod wheel comes up. Also note that the layer range is capped. Its lowest note is G3. I might adjust that a little bit depending on the song or kind of where I think we're gonna go, what key we're gonna be in for a given Sunday or moment of a service. But notice how this adds something to this bright pad as I just play single notes. My organ pad, it actually blends and almost to me stands out more when it's in the mix. Like it has the thing where it sort of disappears into what you're doing, but also enhances this character. And it's just giving it that fuzziness, that grittiness that I feel is really, really cool when you need those all-in moments. And you don't always need it. So sometimes there's songs or moments where I get to everything except that. But I like having this available to just add that crazy grittiness to any of the ambient stuff that I'm doing. And that max volume is super important to me because if I didn't have that capped at -9, it would be so dominant in the mix. And I never actually want to get to that point without maybe purposefully knowing it's coming. And for Ready for Anything, I have no idea what's coming. I'm just ready for it. So I think it's better to be a bit more safe and have a more conservative max volume for that. So those are the layers that are a part of this Ready for Anything patch as I'm currently using it. Now, of course, you've probably noticed I have snapshots programmed along the bottom. And these 5 snapshots are designed to make it even easier for me to cover this territory on the fly. I have a down, add sub bass, which doesn't change anything about the pad stack. It just adds that bass in. Whether you need this is dependent on whether you actually feel like you're going to use that sub bass. And then I have building, which brings in these 2 layers and also increases the prominence of that coastal path pad. And then all in, which adds in all of these layers, including that dystopic lead sound. And then lastly, I have sort of an alternate down, which brings everything back out and includes taking out that warm pad. It leaves in the organ pad, so my stack sort of changes to an organ pad in this coastal path, and then it has the piano at a more subtle volume, just a few decibels less. So there's this sort of ending, kind of, and then a bit more going on, and a bit more warmth for the down. So that's how I can move through without having to manually pull faders. I can build songs up and bring them back down. And of course, you can jump from one to another and the timing is seamless and everything is seamless, except my playing apparently. Leave that in. There's a way that I accomplish this though that's pretty important. You might notice that as I move here, there's no increase in brightness because the mod wheel isn't moving. And I have this programmed intentionally because I want to be able to manually adjust at any moment how much brightness there is. Because even at this all-in moment, I could play a bridge here, you know, especially if I stayed just in the right hand. I could play a down bridge, and then I could build just by increasing the brightness potentially. So let me show you how to do that. You might not know this. If you press and hold on any snapshot, you open up this context menu. You can choose Customize, and then you have to turn on this toggle to use custom setting. And I do this for almost all of the snapshots that I program because I want to be able to intentionally choose what happens. This determines how the snapshot transition takes place, meaning when it's selected, how long does it take for it to transition to those values. And then you also have some more fine tuning that you can do. You can adjust when the audio effects transition and how they transition. They can transition at the start, the middle, the end, or they can smoothly fade. So you can bring your delay in or out abruptly, or you can have that fade over time, which is pretty cool. For MIDI effects, you can have them turn on or off at the start, middle, or end of the snapshot transition time. Oh, and of course, you can choose the transition length. But the thing that I want to show you is this snapshot adjusts mod wheel toggle. Now it defaults to on, but I've turned it off for all 5 of these snapshots. So that means I always have that control on the fly. So even at my down snapshot, I can make it bright with the mod wheel up. I could go straight to building and already be big and already have that brightness, and it just fades in because the layers are fading in. Or I could keep that down. So dialing in that custom snapshot transition is a big part of, I think, the secret sauce that gives me the control and versatility that I need. So I can use snapshots, yes, to adjust, what do I have? 8 sounds all at my fingertips, so I don't have to manually pull 8 faders as I build and respond and try to keep up with the music director or the worship pastor or the senior pastor and figure out what they're wanting me to do. I can just focus on these 5 snapshots and the mod wheel to navigate through it all. Now, one other key ingredient, and this is super important, but I wanted to save it for last, is this Ready for Anything Tonic pad preset. Now I have this patch locked, so when I pull up this patch, it's going to recall these settings. Now you'll need to adjust this depending on whatever key you think you're most likely to be in when you get to this moment of your set list. Or of course, if you're in C and you get there, you just tap C and you're good to go. But I have it patch locked with the pad off because I just don't know if I'm actually going to want that ambience. But you can of course dial this in as much as you think you can in advance. And then when I'm ready, when I know I need that ambience, I just turn it on and I get a rather subtle amount of ambient pad filling space. I'm going to open this up and show you the layers. This is focused on more high-end energy because I know that my pad stack has a piano and a pad that's kind of more warm. So I want to fill mid-range space, that warmth, with the notes that I play, but I also might want a sense of air on top of it. So that's why I have this pad preset dialed in to be a bit more high-end centric. That also means even if I shift down in keys, if I go to C, it's still not going to be so too low or too deep. So I can play in C here. Let's go to G. All in. I'm going to keep that mod wheel where it is at about half. So the layers are building, but I still have another gear if I need to. So maybe we're building a bridge, and then I want to get all in for the chorus. I might turn on my octave up. choices. I can bring it back down here, keep that organ character if I want, kind of the defining tone of the all-in to me. And I can also open the pad menu and bring up a bit more warmth if I want. Bring that sub bass back in on the fly. Maybe I want to start doing something a bit more improvisational. So I'm leaving the snapshots behind. I can bring up the brightness. And I feel like this Ready for Anything patch really does give me the flexibility I need to be able to rise to pretty much any occasion that I throw at it. The great benefit to having a patch like this also is that it sort of serves as a template for me when I'm going to build more specific patches to cover specific songs or fill a certain amount of space. Oftentimes I can use this Ready for Anything patch as my starting point, and then I'll just duplicate it, rename it, and then swap out the layers that I feel need to change. But it can be helpful to sort of have that stack of pads be a constant throughout your set list. Maybe that's the core piano sound that you choose to play across several songs, and then you swap out some of the more character elements. So having a Ready for Anything patch isn't just an incredible tool for those improvisational or unscripted moments, but it can also serve as a template for you as you build more bespoke patches. Okay, so one question for you. If you have a Ready for Anything patch of your own, leave a comment and let us know what are the ingredients of that patch. I'd also love to hear if there's anything that you learned in this video that you weren't doing before that you're gonna start doing now. And then lastly, I'd love to share this patch with you. Now remember that one sub bass sound actually comes from the vintage Synth Locker expansion, so I'm gonna put a version of this patch in a shared setlist link in the description that uses the generic sub bass from Sunday Keys instead. So even if you don't own vintage Synth Locker, you can download this patch and try it out for yourself. If you make a Ready for Anything patch of your own, go ahead and create a shared setlist link after and put it in the description of this video, and then other people can check it out for themselves too. I think it'd be pretty cool if we passed around some of these go-to cover any moment style patches. So leave comments with those. Maybe I'll check out some of them too, maybe even try them in a future video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, share it with a worship leader or keys player you think would find it helpful. We'll see you in the next video.